Hello.
Hi, Jenna.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
I'm Jenna. I'm Marcy. I'm a
And
couples therapist. I squeeze that
And
in.
I'm just gonna interrupt you. Again, me! Listen to me! I want to talk now.
You may speak.
I may speak. Okay. I'm Dr. Saira, and I'm a transpersonal therapist, and this is our show, Today's Your Day.
Today is your day. Today we're talking about having your cake and eating it too. Yes.
Why did we come up with this topic?
It's your metaphorical cake.
Or a real cake.
Or real cake.
If it's a real cake, this is how you do it. It's very simple. Take your cake. Take a picture of your cake. Post it on Instagram. And then eat your cake. Now you have your cake and all your friends have your cake. And you can eat it too.
You're spreading that cake around.
Oh, man. Okay, so
why did we choose this topic? We chose it because lately there's been a theme of feeling like, in my life and I think in your life too, feeling like we have to pick and choose. Like, I can't have everything. I can either have this or I can have that.
Right.
I spoke a little bit about it in Facebook Live where I thought, I'm getting married soon. So I thought to myself, okay, I can either be like a wife or I can be like a fun-loving, adventure-filled person who just like roams the world freely. And I'm starting to realize that maybe I can do both. Maybe I can have adventure and stability.
And the reason we make these types of distinctions, this or that, often is because we're working within roles, right? So when you have a role, there's certain criteria you must fill to be good at that role.
Yes.
And sometimes those criteria are different than some other criteria for some other role. Mm-hmm. So one role is like, fun-loving adventure girl, and the other role is wife, and there's no crossover in our minds, in our list that we've made in our minds.
Yes.
Which is kind of dangerous.
Yeah, so then it becomes about expanding your capacity to see something as more than what it is. So maybe a wife can be a fun-loving, adventure-filled, world-traveling person who is also married. Maybe it doesn't have to exactly. Thank you, Saira.
Right,
yeah.
Totally possible.
Yes, maybe it doesn't have to just be what you originally thought it was.
Right, and part of it is it's stressful when you don't see a lot of role models, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at your parents' generation, your grandparents, they may have done things in a certain particular way, and so there isn't a lot of room to have these other definitions of that role. And so we're actually going to challenge you today to dump the roles.
Dump them. Just get rid of them.
Roll them away. That role of a good big sister, little sister, a good friend, a good daughter, a good friend. Did I say that already?
Yeah. Just unzip it. Unzip yourself. Take yourself out of that.
Because when you're doing things because you think other people will think you're good, you're probably missing just being yourself. Totally. And being happy, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can be a good sister all you want, but if you feel like crap all the time, then you're not going to feel like a very good person.
Stop being that good.
Exactly.
The other reason that we thought this would be a good topic is that we were both talking about this belief system around success, right? Mm-hmm. And this belief system that in order to be successful, there's got to be struggle. It's got to be hard. It's got to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You have to be up all hours of the night. You have to be your health has to be suffering. Your relationships have to be suffering.
It has to be hard freaking work.
Really, really hard.
Otherwise, how will you ever be successful?
Yeah, and then we called each other out and said, well, that's a lie.
Yeah, it can be easy.
It could be really easy.
Yeah, there's people that have great success just doing what comes naturally to them, just going around being themselves. There's tons of people out there like that.
And it doesn't mean there aren't periods of intense activity, but when you're doing that activity, you'll be enjoying it. It'll be a passion rather than a dread.
So it's not about being a passive observer, right? You're not supposed to just lie in bed and watch Netflix and then the money just comes in.
Life.
No. What it means is following your sense of adventure. We all have something that we're kind of called to do, even if we don't understand it. Mm-hmm. And when you can follow that sense of adventure and go where it takes you without worrying and with, I think, a faith and a trust that things will work out, that's when things flow easier because you're not so stressed out and because you're seeing opportunities where you might not have seen opportunities before just by virtue of being relaxed. There's such a different feeling going through life, feeling like I have a purpose and I'm fulfilling it. And even just saying that to yourself, I have a purpose and I'm fulfilling it. Then feeling like, okay, this is my goal. This is what I'm going to do to get there.
And if I don't get there on this day, I have failed.
Yes.
Don't do that. I talk to people who are like, well, I was planning on being retired by 35 and I'm 34 and I feel like a failure. I'm first of all, that was a pretty intense goal to be retired by 35. You gotta be some Mark Zimmerman or something. Mm-hmm. You gotta be some really smart kind of innovative person to be retired by 35. And second of all, you're thinking about it the year before your goal is up. Like, you're not going to make enough to retire in a year. So part of it is setting realistic goals for yourself. And then the other thing is evaluating your goals regularly, looking back and saying, oh, okay, maybe I need to shift the goalpost a little bit to make it more fair. And then you can have it all. Then you can have, because, you know, you might all of a sudden get pregnant in the middle of your goal. I have a friend who's, her and her husband are trying for a baby, and she kind of has like two kind of
competing goals.
Yeah, she's like, okay, well then if I get pregnant, well, here's my path, and if I don't get pregnant, well, and she's got to kind of have those contingencies, right? Most of us, like, you know, before I had my second baby, I didn't really have a contingency. I was thinking, oh, I'm just going along, and then I knew I wanted another baby at some point, and then it happened a lot sooner than we had anticipated, and suddenly it's like, okay, I got to reset my priorities. Right?
It could also be about like redefining your goals so that instead of having the goal be the big finale, the goal is to go on your journey with a sense of whatever you want that goal to achieve. So if you want to become a certain thing in your life because you think it'll bring you happiness, and let's say you think it'll allow you to travel, you think it'll give you better relationships, then instead of having that be the goal and then you think that you can travel when you get there, then make adventure and travel and love part of the journey so that the goal doesn't become the end, it becomes how you get there.
And some people might find, like, if you're listening to us right now, you might think, oh, but my goal is to be in a happy relationship, so until that person gets here, I'm not going to be in a happy relationship. I would actually challenge you. I would say, okay, so maybe you're not in a happy relationship with your life partner yet, but could you practice? Could you practice feeling happy and feeling content and comfortable in the relationships that you already have in your life, right? So it's not to say you have to put your life on hold until some other thing drops in, right? It's that friend of mine who's hoping for a baby, right? The things that she thinks the baby will bring her, she's starting to do more of those things now, rather than waiting until maybe I have a baby or maybe I don't.
When we put our happiness and our whole life's purpose on an external thing that we have to wait for, that's when we kind of know that something's amiss, right? Because all of that external stuff is going to be a product of what we're doing inside. So if we're able to be happy in a way that we're living our life the way that we want to live it, that's when we're going to get all that stuff that allows us to keep doing what we're doing inside. But it has to start from inside.
There's I read this somewhere, like on somebody's Facebook post or something, and it said there's two ways of looking at the world, right? You got to see it to believe it, or you got to believe it, then you'll see it.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm a subscriber to the second, is that if I can truly believe something, if I can truly look for example, we were talking about the people around us who kind of frustrate us, if we're willing to look for the good in them, we start seeing the good in them.
Yeah.
If we're expecting to be disappointed, we'll be disappointed.
You will see exactly what you expect to see.
Right. And so rather than waiting for somebody to prove themselves to you, just expect them to be better. And it's almost like miraculous how that happens.
It's like sudden shift.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they're not changing and evolving and you're not seeing a change, you'll just actually see that they drift out of your life.
Exactly.
Very effortlessly without any drama.
Yeah. So if you're expecting all of the people around you to truly love you and be there for you and care for you, then that's what you're going to find. And the people that aren't doing that, they're going to go away.
And that's what you have to be willing to bring.
Yeah.
Right? You can't wait for other people to do it. Like, what can we bring to be that kind of a friend or that kind of a family member or that kind of a partner?
Exactly. So when we're talking about having your cake and eating it too, like I can sense, even in myself for a while, there is a lot of resistance to that. How can we have happiness without struggle? We think that there's supposed to be two sides to the coin, right? Mm-hmm. You can be happy if you're also sad. Like you can, your life can be good if it's also been really shitty. So we think that kind of justifies getting to the good. Mm-hmm. But what if we were able to say that maybe our life is meant to be happy and maybe we're meant to do the things that make us feel good rather than constantly choosing the hard way because we think it's going to get us someplace without really knowing.
And it's tough, I think, because we're probably the first generation, for those of us who live in kind of peaceful places around the world, we're the first generation that was raised by parents who did not go to war or were not in some way directly impacted. And I mean, this is different. Our viewers are all around the world, so I'm sure the story is different for whoever's watching. But for Jena and I, like, our parents were not involved in a war, right? I think my mom, when she was young, there were some Civil War stuff going on, and that was kind of in the background. But she didn't ever have to lose people, or people weren't killed from our family because of war. And so the way that people raise children in peacetime is very different, right? But there's still that history of scarcity, that history of pain, that history of things that can blow up in a second without anything causing it. So it's up to our generation now to start saying, well, maybe we're living in peacetime. Maybe it's now we have to change the mentality and the psyche to say we could have it all. There doesn't have to be destruction and devastation. We could actually be the ones who bring that peace on the planet. I know that sounds a bit hokey, but it's up to us. If not us, then who?
And it's not like we have to save everybody on the planet, right? It starts just with yourself.
Right.
So if you're able to be the change that you want to see in your relationship, let's say with yourself, like if you think to yourself, okay, I want to be happier, so I'm going to start treating myself nicer. And when I treat myself nicer, I'm going to start treating my family and my partner a little bit more nicer.
Nicer, nice-ish, nicest.
And then, you know, and that just kind of, it builds sort of a chain reaction, but really it starts with you. We think that it's selfish to care for ourselves and to want more than we previously have thought that we could possibly want. We think it's selfish, right? We think it's selfish to make big changes and to do the things that make us really happy, because there's a part of us that believes that we have to struggle in order to be good people. And we don't have to struggle to be good people. We are already good. And what we want is there for a reason. There's a reason that your heart desires whatever it desires. Mm-hmm. And if you don't follow that, you're always going to be fighting yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you want to tell them about that exercise that you do with your clients?
Oh, yeah. I share this in Facebook Live as well. So I have an exercise that's been like very, very effective for a lot of my couples who come in feeling extremely devastated and blaming each other, very resentful. And what we talk about during session, instead of all of their focus is on the other person, right? Like totally. She's doing this, he's doing that. So we bring the focus back to them and we say, what is it that you're doing? Like, how would you like, not what are you doing? How would you like to be in this relationship and in your life in general? Mm-hmm. Do you want to be funnier? Do you want to laugh more? Do you want to love more? Do you want to be more active, more fit? Do you want to do, like, what do you want to do? What would make you feel good? And then that week, their only assignment is to be the best version of themselves. So whatever qualities that they said that they really wanted to bring out of themselves, that's what they do for the entire week. And their relationships become just incredible because suddenly they're not focused on the fact that she's, you know, not doing this or that. They're focused on what am I bringing to the table? Mm-hmm. What am I doing that's really making my life better or worse?
There's an exercise that I do with my clients where I have, you know, whenever we're talking about finding true love, right? So that's who I get, is the people who are looking for true love. Mm-hmm. And then once their true love is found and then they're having problems, they come to you. But when they're trying to look for love, I ask them to make a list of all the qualities, right, that they would love to have in a partner. And then also a list of deal breakers, the 2 or 3 things that they would not tolerate. And then the, 55 things that they would love to have. And then I ask them to make a third list, which is, what are you bringing? Mm-hmm. What kind of partner are you promising to be in this relationship if you expect this other person to have all these qualities? Wow. And then I get them to look at their entire list of like 55 items and say, okay, now what you're going to look for is the 80% guy or the 80% girl. Because nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
Not even us. Believe it or not. Right? Nobody's perfect. And so if you can look for that person who has generally the kinds of value systems that you have, then now you're having your cake and you're eating it too. And there's room to grow. There's room to grow.
Yeah. That's so true. We really expect perfection from our partners. And a lot of times we expect it from ourselves as well. That's what we beat ourselves up when we're, not able to be there for every single person that needs us at every specific time that they need us. We feel like we have to be perfect. And I think
don't do it, people.
Don't do it. I think a lot of our peace and contentment comes when we're able to accept rather than judge, right? So and that goes for everyone, not just our partner, but also ourselves, right? When we're able to accept ourselves for who we are and for the fact that we're really trying, mm-hmm. then we can see our partner and say, oh, you're really trying too. Like, I accept you. Mm-hmm. And I'm not expecting you to fill me up because I'm going to do that myself by being the person that I want to be. But I want us to come together as like 2 whole people who really just enjoy each other.
And accepting doesn't mean you ignore your flaws, right? So we did this exercise earlier where we said, okay, what if I was to name my flaws? How would I name them? And then how would I rename them to make it a little bit more palatable, a little bit more forgiving? So I'm going to share.
Yeah,
you don't have to.
Oh, I will.
Okay, so let's see if I can remember. New ones might come up because, new flaws emerging every day. Okay, so I said I'm oversensitive, like over-emotional, oversensitive. I start things and I don't complete them. And...
doubt yourself.
Oh, and I doubt myself. Clearly, right now, again, and I doubt myself all the time. So then we talked
So
about...
if she kept looking at herself in that way, she would probably be really down on herself. And I bet she'd find a million more things wrong. And she'd be like, oh, Saira, you're awful. You never finish anything. She'd be really mean to herself, right?
Totally.
If she kept on thinking of herself that way, yeah, she'd get more of that because that's what she's focused on. But
here's the new definition. And
again,
it's things about myself that I know I can work on. And these are my watch fors. That's how I think of it. So for example, when I start a new project, I'm watching for, okay, now I've started this. Now, how do I make sure I continue this, right? Because I know that's one of my struggle points. So now we reframed it and I said, okay, I have lots of great ideas. That's why I start lots of things. I have lots of great ideas. I am a deep feeler, right? I have access to my emotion. I am a deep feeler, and so therefore it makes me very empathic and caring of other people. And I'm open to other people's input and open to other people's feedback and opinions.
Lovely.
Much better.
Way better.
And it takes away that edge, right? Because I think sometimes when we talk to ourselves, the voice that I used to talk to myself is so critical sometimes.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Right? And it's so mean sometimes. And I would never even talk to somebody who I have problems with in that tone, in that way of speaking. Yeah. And so we really have to work on like correcting on a regular basis so that voice doesn't get any power anymore.
Yeah. So you're giving yourself back that love just simply by changing the words that you're using.
Right.
And the way that you're saying them. Mm-hmm. So my flaws were that I'm stubborn as hell. I am a perfectionist. I'm not just a perfectionist, but I expect myself to never make a mistake ever. And I can't remember. Oh, I think I said hard-headed, which Saira said is the same thing as being stubborn as hell. So my reframe was that I'm passionate.
Determined.
And eventually I'm going to get where I want to be because I'm relentless.
Mm-hmm. And then the other point, so that's all about being stubborn. It's clearly a big theme in your identity. Mm-hmm. The other theme, you said stubborn, and then?
I can't remember what the other one was.
Oh my gosh, you'll have to rewind it and get back to it.
Yeah.
Your brain will kick in a few minutes.
Will it?
We can interrupt ourselves. Interrupt all of us and say, wait, I remember. You can write to us and tell us what you think Jenna's reframe should be for her second.
Tell me what you think my flaws are.
Don't do that. You know, I'm a public speaker, right? And so I used to always ask people, like, what did you like? What would you improve? And they would give me their feedback. And, you know, they'd probably say, oh, we like this, we like this, we like this. But next time, maybe you want to try that. And I would walk away from these events and I would feel totally deflated. Because all I could hear was people's negative comments. All I could hear was that, oh, and next time you should try this. Or I would have talked about this other thing that you didn't talk about. And it just like, you know, it wrecked me. And so now when I have a public speaking engagement and somebody says, oh, I loved your talk, I will say, what was your favorite part? And that makes them sit and think and actually give me really something good. Like, it's always good, right? Because it was their favorite part. Mm-hmm. And it helps me see what's working.
Yeah.
And it avoids that critical part of my mind from, like, hanging on to that one bad thing and, like, making the whole event about that one bad thing.
Yes.
So also be careful what you're asking for from the people around. If you're asking for criticism, constructive feedback, yeah, people will jump on that. People like being mean sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially if you have what they don't want.
Yeah. And that's all also stuff on them too, right? Like when people are telling you, oh, you're being, like someone was saying on our Facebook Live, how do I know if I'm being selfish? And you said, well, people are probably telling you that you're being selfish, and that's on them too, right? People will project onto you what they're missing in their own lives. That's why, you know, with some of our closest relationships, we can be very, very harsh with those people because we think we're expecting perfection because we're also expecting perfection from ourselves. So we're saying to them, you're, you know, like if I was to say to Altaz, because he's very stable, but sometimes I'll say to him, like, you're so boring, right? Like, that's a way of just being mean because I'm frustrated with myself. Mm-hmm. That's not actually what I think about him. That's what I think about me. You know what I mean?
Your secret fear that maybe you're boring. My secret fear. Under all the adventuresomeness.
Yeah, so right. I push that out. So when other people are criticizing you, that's them. That's their own stuff that they're seeing in themselves, that you're giving them an easy way to say, hey, like, tell me what you think is wrong with me, and they're going to tell you what's wrong with them.
Right. It's really messed up. One of the things we were talking about earlier is, okay, it's a really weird concept, So buckle in, like put on your seatbelt. Okay, because we're going on a ride. It's this thing about the past actually doesn't exist anywhere except for in your own mind.
Whoa, mind blown.
Maybe in some pictures, but it's not happening now.
Yeah.
And so every time you think about something from the past that makes you upset, you're the one making yourself upset.
Yes, nobody can make you feel any way that you don't want to feel. Not even an event.
Is like just some distant thing that happened sometime in the past that people may or may not even remember. Only you're remembering it, which is why it's making you upset. And
it's alive as you're remembering it.
So it's like it's happening now to you, but you made that happen because you were thinking about it.
Yeah. And there's something okay, so I'm reading this book, A Course in Miracles, and it talks about how if something doesn't have an effect on you, then essentially it doesn't have a cause, because there's no reason for a cause if there's no effect. So it's like it never happened.
Kind of like it never happened.
Right? Like you could walk to the grocery store and come back and you're not feeling any particular way, and you get the groceries and you eat the groceries, and then it's like it never happened because it's in the past and it has no effect on you anymore.
And I know it sounds like a really like nebulous concept, but let's kind of concretize it a bit, okay?
Concretize?
So, that's my big university word.
Concretize.
Okay, so I have clients who have been in really, really abusive relationships and are now in really happily married, like really doing well in their relationships. How is that possible?
How is it possible?
It's only possible because they were willing to let the past be in the past.
Yes.
If every time this new partner did some sort of an action or said some sort of a comment, the individual that had a bad relationship in the past was like, oh, this is just like so-and-so, and he did this, and then he did that, and then all of a sudden you're going to create, the new relationship is going to start looking just like the old relationship.
And it's easy to do that because there's a part of ourselves that does not believe that we deserve to be happy. So if you're happy right now, you are going to choose some part of that happiness to criticize and dwell on
and
sabotage the crap out of it, and you're going to use your past as the weapon to kill your present happiness,
and which is so messed up. And that's what today's episode is all about, is that you can have your cake and eat it too, but you deserve to be happy.
It takes some discipline in telling yourself the past does not freaking matter. Okay, like nothing that happened before has any bearing on right now. If I want to be happy right this second, that is my choice.
Right.
I'm going to make that choice, and I'm going to keep making that choice. And when I forget to make that choice, I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, never mind, I made that choice.
Right.
You know, it's a constant effort, and it's so worthwhile.
It's so worthwhile.
So worth it.
At first, it can be kind of tiring because you won't necessarily feel like you're seeing results right away. But if you start paying attention, and this is what I ask people to do, is like they make a change or they make a decision, then I start having them look for signs and signposts that decision had an impact. Okay, so for example, somebody who has decided that they want happier friendships, right? So then I'll say, okay, for this week, notice all the people who reach out to you and write it down, make a note. And they'll come back and be so surprised because like all these people reached out to them in different sorts of ways. Somebody texted them, somebody messaged them, somebody called them. They saw a random person on the street that they hadn't seen for a long time. And suddenly it's like the entire universe starts conspiring to give you what you want.
Because they're starting to believe that the universe is friendly, which makes it friendly.
Makes a big difference.
Wow.
Right? So that's your thing to just mull over that today. How is it possible for you in your life to have your cake and eat it too? Where are you splitting off and saying, well, I can either have this or this. I can either have success or happiness. I can either have be a adventurous or be a good partner. I can either like whatever it is for you that you've created that split. See if you could like have a bigger container and have it all.
I have to give a shout out to my sister in New York. She got me these really cool, I don't know if you can see it. It's like a heart and a star. It's so awesome. Stamping my face all around. It's really cool.
Stamping her face. Redefining every day. So today's your day to have your cake and eat it too. To have all the things that you said you wanted, to actually start creating those, attracting those to yourself now.
Shedding those old labels and those old ideas about what was proper and what was right and what you should be doing.
What's allowed.
And instead just do whatever the hell you want to do.
Yeah. As long as it's bringing more good to the world.
Bring joy.
Keep a smile on. Today's your day to have your cake and eat it too. If you have topics that you want us to talk about, please send us a note. We'd love to respond to your ideas about what you want us to talk about. We are on every Friday, so there's lots of other episodes if you want to sit down with some friends, eat some popcorn, and binge watch us, now's the time.
And we're on Facebook Live on Thursdays and sometimes Periscope as well. So check us out there. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and have a great week.
We'll see you next week. For today's your day. Bye.